Hello everyone, and welcome to another bottled Sky Devlog. First off, I wanted to do a bit more camera work for when you're drilling into an object. So far, the only camera work I've done is to have the camera stay ahead of the shuttle based on how fast you're moving. I talked about this in more detail in a previous video, but I did also rework this a little bit so there is a more snappy transition for speeding up and slowing down. While drilling, however, the shuttle doesn't move, so there's no need to look ahead. Instead, I've changed the camera to be centered on the shuttle and to slowly and dramatically zoom in until you've finished drilling. After that, you get a quick snap back to a wider view because the size of the camera is based on the speed of the shuttle. This helps the view look less static and more interesting while drilling, although right now it still looks a little bit odd without any specialized animations to zoom in on yet. I'll get around to adding those later. Next up, I'm finally making some UI. I got started on designing a layout for the inventory. This is where you'll be able to view what items you've collected so far, read their descriptions, and more. Firstly, I don't want the player to be able to do the classic Skyrim meme of entering combat and then pausing when you're on low health, and then eating 100 potatoes, and then resuming again with full health. It's funny to think about your character doing that, but in practice it's tedious to do when you find yourself in a situation that actually calls for it. To solve this, opening the inventory won't pause the game, and combat difficulty will be designed around not accessing the inventory. There will still be a separate button to pause the game for situations where that's necessary, but you won't have access to many features while the game is paused. Now, since the game won't be paused when viewing the inventory, I didn't want it to take up the whole screen, so I came up with a slimmer design. I'm intentionally leaving a lot of empty space here as a hint to the player that they may be able to unlock more inventory slots later. The inventory will still be tightly coupled with crafting in the game, but there's also a button here to switch between viewing the crafting menu and the inventory. I later changed this design to tabs to make it clearer which menu you're on at a glance, and to make it easier for myself to add more menus if I want to later. Doing this with a transparent interface is pretty annoying to set up, but I'm glad I got it in the end. I spent a bit of time on some quality of life features that make it easy and fast to manually reorganize your items. You can click an item to pick it up, then click again elsewhere to drop it. Or you can click and drag, then release to drop the item. If you clicked to pick up an item, then dropped it on top of another item, then the item you were carrying goes into that slot, while the other item goes into your hand. However, if you were dragging and dropping, then the two items get swapped immediately and nothing goes into your hand. This is something I'd like to get feedback on later when I'm ready for playtesting. The crafting menu will show recipes with a filtering option to only show recipes that you currently have the requisite items for. Hovering over a recipe will also tell you the ingredients and outputs, and you can easily tell at a glance whether you're able to craft the item, which takes into account other factors like if you have enough inventory space. That way, you won't need to constantly switch back and forth from the inventory to check if you have the ingredients of each recipe. Clicking on a recipe will craft that item, although in future I will probably add a prompt asking yes or no if you'd like to craft the recipe. That might not be the end of the feature list in future, but generally the philosophy going forward is that I want to reduce the need for players to spend time in menus whilst exploring the world. Given that December is a busy month, where I spend a lot of time with friends and family, I wasn't able to get everything done that I wanted to, so here's a few features that are missing or incomplete. Firstly, you might have noticed these two buttons down the bottom that say Auto Use Rules and Auto Craft Rules. I'd like to give the player the ability to set conditions for automatically crafting or using specific recipes or items. For example, automatically using healing items when you drop below a certain health threshold. I like this because it has multiple benefits. It helps keep players out of menus, especially if I have some rules set up by default for all players, and it makes the game more accessible if players don't have to worry about using items during tense moments of gameplay. Players can instead focus on their maneuvering and cool abilities during exploration and combat. I already have an auto crafting feature done, but I just haven't designed and built the interface for this feature yet. Secondly, context menus. When you right-click an inventory slot, I want to give the player a list of actions that they can do that are relevant to the item you clicked. For example, a use option if the item has a function outside of being just a crafting material. Repair kits are one example of this. Right now, if I right-click an inventory slot, then I get a menu, but the only option is cancel, which closes the menu. No other options exist yet because I don't have certain other features built yet. I also haven't added context menus to the crafting menu. I'd like to give the player the option to craft many items at once, where you get to choose a number between 1 and the maximum amount that you can craft. Thirdly is the ability to drop items. If you decide you need to make room for something more valuable, then you should be able to destroy or drop another item. This is something I would add to the context menu, but I'd also like to allow the player to just drag and drop an item outside of their inventory too. Fourthly is the description panel. Most items so far have a description, I just haven't designed an interface to show this yet. A fifth feature I wanted to work on this month was controller support. I will be required to eventually port the game to the Nintendo Switch, and many PC players including myself opt to use alternative input controllers for some games. It's also just a good idea for accessibility reasons. Next month, I plan to finish the rest of these interface features, add controller support for Switch Joy-Cons and any other controllers I already own, and then work on some sound effects to add more impact to various bits of gameplay, like combat and gathering. January will be another busy month, however. The next video you see from me at the end of this month, I will be in Sweden. I plan to stay there for a year and hopefully finish the game, which is very exciting for me, considering I haven't really been overseas and I've always lived in the same place. Let me know what you think of these new features, either in the comments below or join my Discord server to chat with myself and other members of the community. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, that's all for now, and I'll see you later.